Okay, boom. Welcome to another episode of the StayAwake Podcast with myself, the StayAwake Grinder, Brian Drifted Benza, and today we have a special guest, Tawanda Christian Black Chukura. You can check him out on his socials. We'll put them in the link below. How you doing, G's?
No, we all good, man. What's happening? I'm good, dog. I'm alright.
Nice. Yo, so before we get this one off, still, like a lot of people, I got feedback from the last few episodes, and people were saying like the jargon and the lingo, some of the things they don't understand. So Drip said mainly you're the suspect, but I've toned down on the complicated words in it. At least to speak properly.
Alright, look, I will, dog.
Alright, so let's get this one off. Yo, Risto, introduce the topic, fam.
So today we're gonna be talking about basically distinguishing between are you a creative, or is someone a creative, or it's just a clout chaser. Basically, this concept is behind the whole meaning of clout. Clout is basically, you know how swag was the word back then. Clout is like having swag in everything. It's like street cred, being popular. You're super popping, basically.
Fact.
So how do you differentiate by a person who's aiming to be popping, or a person who's aiming to create art, who's aiming to express their ideas via art?
Alright. I hear you, but for me, basically, I think there's a thin line still, because most of the things that you're going to do either way have been done before. So it's just getting inspiration and motivation from things that have been done before. If you're doing music, there's people that have done things before. There's people that have used that flow, those kind of bars, double entendre or whatever, in such a way. So what you're going to do, you're going to feed off that energy, but without mimicking what they're doing, just getting inspired and getting ideas from what they're doing, which is the same thing as fashion and everything else that we do in life. Like even when you're in college, like there are people that are known to have swag, the top boys or whatever. People try to be those people, but you don't overdo it, because people will notice that you're trying to be that person, but you start producing your own style, though it's coming off the other person's style. So that's how I understand the topic when it comes to being a creative and being, when it's art associated.
I feel it. Basically, I
was thinking, like, on what you said as well, how can you differentiate between a person who's doing it for the whole cloud and who's, a creative by, just nature, or just a generally creative person? I think it depends on, it doesn't depend, but then if you're just generally a creative, right, there's a stretch or an extra mile, you could say, that you would go for what you believe in terms of what you create. Because if you're doing it for social approval, it's like, there's a limit, and it's very easy to break you in terms of what you create. It's like what Denzel was also saying. You get inspired, right? But if you're doing it for the cloud, it's like, it's not exactly inspiration. It's more like you ride with the wave. You don't really. It's like, okay, put it in the music perspective, man. You have people like the Kid Cut, those people are just generally creatives, bro. They're just generally creatives. What they make is not like other people, and they just don't care what other people say.
That's a big example, dog.
But yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Like, even though, like, for me personally, before differentiating between the two, personally, I think if it's clout, if we really say, okay, clout is something inevitable, I think it's something that should come by itself. Like, if you get the street cred, if you get recognized, if you're popping, you're popping. Like, that's something that should happen in proportion to your work. Or even if it doesn't happen directly proportional to your work, it doesn't matter. Because the thing is this, when you are a creative, I think how you distinguish, personally for me, like when I started Drip Set, I was asking myself the same question in the same days, in the early stages. Like, look, this is the thing. When you are a creative, you are not under pressure to put out, you're not under pressure to do, and you're not also under emotional pressure on how your work is doing, the outreach on your work. Because, like, the perfect, like C Black said, Kid Cudi. Have you noticed how Kid Cudi, even before now, even when he wasn't good, nigga barely tweeted like that. he only tweets once in a while. He drops. He doesn't have a specifier like we know. Cardi drops after a year, or you should release like 3 weeks or whatever. Cardi releases whenever, and I feel like a creative. I feel like there's two types of creatives. You can be a creative who's generally creating every day, and you might be a creative to create your art. But when you're chasing cloud, you afford to the people you're trying to attract idle. You have to keep feeding them, and you have to keep feeding your energy, and that results. And I think that basically makes you a cloud chaser when you see yourself trying to look for content but not expressing content, because you shouldn't be looking for content as a creative. You should be expressing your creative urge should be just expressed with your art. You feel me? So that's how I think you differentiate the two, or differentiate personally.
All right. Yeah, I hear where you're coming from. So are you saying if I am a creative, then I do not have a time limit on doing something? For example, let's give an example. Let's say I make clothes. So I should not have like the deadline or the pressure to say, yo, I released my last batch 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago. I need to come up with a new design right now and release some new designs that are fire in the next month, while these people are still buying my stuff, while these people are still associating with my stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I think with that, like that being said, when you're a creator, you have values. You know what I'm saying? You nicely know the reasons you create and what you're in it for. So when you create your content, you create it because you're proud of it, and when you put it out to the world, you're giving it to the people that appreciate, right? Yes, you do have pressure, but that pressure is very intrinsic. You're not going to be pressurized because people want you to drop your new shit in the next month or tomorrow or what. But the pressure is always in you, always wanting your next stuff to be better than the previous. And if you are truly a creator, it does not matter how long that takes, as long as you know that you're not sleeping on yourself, and every day you're putting in that work to continually work to a point where you can say, okay, I've done better than what I did last time. This is okay for me to put out.
That's basically what I was saying, and what I meant, because you find yourself, like, I do understand things. Okay, let me look for the fashion perspective. If you have to release for August, winter 2018, spring, summer 2018, that is something you have to do, because when you're a fashion house or you're a luxury brand or whatever, you have to constantly release new seasons. But that is different from person who's constantly releasing them for the sole purpose of just releasing them. They don't have any agenda behind it. The agenda is just to get recognized, because I feel like it's how you deal with a situation whereby you're not getting recognition, but your work is top of the range, but you only get like a little attention. And it's how you deal with such situations that make you yourself reflect, like, okay, I'm being bothered by 2 views, like I was expecting like 10, and then you see yourself deleting your content, and then there's a problem.
When it comes to deleting your content, it's mad, fam. I don't get people that delete their content.
It's like you, dog, isn't your video? Imagine you create a video, and you're used to your regular views, then boom, you get 10 views, 3 days, 10 views.
That's mad, too. Yeah, that's mad. That's mad.
You see.
I have self-value though. For myself, I have self-value. I'm not going to delete it, but still, it's affecting, bro. Yeah, it gets to you.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, it gets to you.
You see, yeah, it can get to you, but like, if you see yourself now deleting it, there's a problem. You put out that content for a reason. You created something, you felt to express it, and you felt like you want to show people your art. You can take it down after, like, for your personal reason, like, okay, maybe I don't want to share this anymore. But if the reason is because I didn't get as much views, or what are people going to think about the small people, like, how it's the same as niggas who will be like, oh, at school or at uni, Like I don't want to submit my assignment, print it in color, bind it and shit. Because if I get low marks, I'm gonna look like, you know how you're gonna look.
You gotta look like man put bare effort but not doing nothing. Exactly.
You're gonna look like you're putting mad effort, but you're not getting anything.
Exactly.
But it's not like that when you're a creative, dog. Like if you put out your work, you put it out and let it grow.
True. I hear you. But for me, it comes back as well. Like if we're talking of creatives, for me, we are talking of people that create things, and they are creating these things because they want to and they have to, but also it's their way of living. So if I am a musician and I'm creating music and I know that I'm going to feed my family, I'm going to put food on my table through this music, I cannot wait for me to be in that creative mind all the time for me to put out something. Sometimes I have to force myself to do this because this is how I'm going to eat. If I do not do that, if I don't produce this content, I'm not going to eat. But I understand that we're talking from a perspective of people that are just starting stuff, just like we are doing right now. We're starting our podcast.
I think another thing as well you have to consider is, if we're looking at it from our perspective, is we're still students, man, and things haven't happened.
Facts.
So we still have to balance our creative living with a realistic life. You know, we still have we still have all this. But those people that you're also looking at, man, they've reached a point where a creative living is their way of living. They do And when you do nothing else, bro, when you do nothing else and you're only giving time to create, man, you're gonna be great. You're gonna be so great that, be it that you're a musician, man, you can make 5 songs in a day if your mind is to it. If your mind is to it.
I even wanted to give that same example to music.
Yeah. Whatever you're doing, man, you just be so great.
Because I feel like even with if it's in a music perspective, like what Denzel is asking, like, okay, here's a scenario. I'm a rapper, right? But the thing with Denzel's scenario, it's like someone who decides to become a rapper because they want to feed their family. It's more of a
job.
Do it to get money. It's more like it's now your job. You see, then the creative aspect is already gone. But now you also have creators. Look at the richest or the most popping guys right now. If we're talking Travis Scott, nigga was using his tuition to go record in LA or whatever. He was skipping school and all that shit. Got kicked out of home. And like what Jawanda says, it becomes something within you. So now look, you have nothing else to do. You're creating you're recording every day. Eventually, you'll get out of your living condition. There's rappers who can be broke for 15 years, dog, and when they're 35 or 30, they're popping and they're getting that one. And there's also rappers that can be popping from day one. You feel me?
Fair.
So you just gotta sacrifice. Like, it's just work whereby you're gonna go in and tell yourself, okay, I'll find a means of living somehow, and eventually you will, maybe accomplish your financial demands. You get what I'm saying?
True. I hear you. So I think it just goes back, like, still to the way we live, like how society is structured and how the system is structured us as a species. That if I go and get an education, then if I take the normal route, the system route, if I go and get an education, then I look for employment, then I do this, then it's structured. But when you're a creative, it cannot be structured. Like you said, one day you cannot be popping, then the next day you are popping. Or you can still put loads and loads of work, but still not get anything for like 10, 15 years, but end up getting it at a later age. For example, 2 Chainz. So I think that's like a lesson we can take as well, even in life, when you're trying to do something. Whether you're a creative or not, it still applies that you do not just pop then, or your times are different. Your time and my time is different.
Thanks.
We might release this podcast 4 or 5 episodes or whatever. Then people start gravitating to it. They start loving it. Then we get more views. We start getting interviews and whatever. Or we might do this for the next 4 or 5 years, and people still do not get where we're coming from or where we are getting to.
That's what I was also telling you in the episode. Like, let's use this podcast as an example. imagine the work that's gonna be put in putting maybe let's say 1,000 episodes, but you see like the growth of your catchment area is not as significant. You feel me? But
True.
you're putting in gang work. It's the decision you make after that point when you sit down and ask yourself that's gonna tell you like how what exactly you are on a personal level. You yourself will know because people obviously is the same as why people are also afraid to start shit because people are gonna laugh at you for putting so much hard work but little return. But little do they know that slow progress is still progress. Because 0 to 1 is progress, but 0 to 0 ain't shit. You feel me?
Yeah. So
I just think it's
like we always try to do. We are trying to get to cater to people that are in the same level as us with the podcast as the foundation that we are just creating. So for me, what I learned like from the conversation that we had is that whatever I'm trying to do, whether I'm a creative or I'm not a creative, I might get inspired. My dad might be a doctor, then I want to be a doctor as well. But I end up not being a doctor by 28, maybe if the degrees take 6-7 years or whatever. By 28 or by 27, I end up not being a doctor. Then I become a doctor at 35. That doesn't make me less of a doctor than my dad if he got to be a doctor at 25.
Yeah.
So people are still comparing themselves to people because phone technology, the technology that you have in your hand has killed us to the extent that if you compare yourself, if you see someone and say, yo, Dripset is popping, oh, he has the new Gucci, he has this new merchandise, people are buying it and whatever. When I start my label as well, I want people to feel like that. I want people to do that. Then I end up stealing what you're doing. That's why we say when we said biting last time. That's when I end up biting because I want the results that you have. I'm being envious of what you have yourself. It's not coming from myself. So it comes back to mentality like, well, where is your mind? If your mind is in the right place and your thoughts are coming from a place of positivity and wanting to better yourself over time, you do not focus on the immediate results or you do not focus on what people are going to say, which is not easy because we all do. We are all people. It's human nature to focus on what another person is going to say to you. But you can practice and structure yourself into a human being that's actually, you close your ears. I don't know that statement that they used to use, that the horses of whatever, those things that fucking make them see one direction, that make them see one direction, not see to the side. It's not easy, but it has to be done. So we just have to be very vigilant on how we are going to get inspired or get motivated by what other people are doing and still come back to ourselves, not to base our future or what we are trying to do off somebody else's eyes or somebody else's works. Facts.
I don't know. Like, if we're talking about creativity as well, man. Like, there's a fine line between writing and being inspired. Like, a lot of people get that confused.
Yeah.
A lot of people get that confused a lot. So I don't know, man. So let's say, for example, Dripset, man. Like, you have a certain way that you move with your business and certain style that you have in the way that you dress yourself. Obviously, people that are gonna follow you, they're just generally gonna have an interest in fashion.
Yeah, okay.
And you know, there's a lot of ways to bring about business through fashion, and I know bringing the term business kind of, wishy is the creative aspect of it. But I don't know, man. I think that whatever you might consider as biting, I think it's easier for you to see it as an extension of Dripset, because at the end of the day, you're trying to move Dripset as a culture, and I think in general as well, being creative or creatives in general, it's a culture. Because
I get you.
One thing you have to know about creatives is no idea is original. It's coming from somewhere.
Exactly.
Some way.
True. Always coming from somewhere.
True. I hadn't thought of it in that aspect, but you make sense. I feel you.
But I hear you though. But in the case of Dripset, for me, I still beg to differ, because if he is trying to do whatever he's trying to do with his fashion thing, and someone else comes off and does exactly the same thing, that's not being inspired. That person is literally almost in the same space as him when it comes to the bigger market and whatever. So if I am the consumer, or if I am someone that likes fashion, and I want to support whatever they're doing, if I see Dripset, he's from Namibia, he's doing this, his clothes are like this, then I see another person, he's also from Namibia, his clothes are like this and whatever, but they are two separate people, I'm going to say I'm not going to buy that, because by the end of the week there are going to be 6 other people that are going to be inspired the same way, and I'll be wearing the same shit as the next person, and I do not want that, because I thought that Dripset was original and he had his own personal style. So there's also a thin line, like you're saying. It's very thin.
I think you also have to consider the type of market Dripset is in. It's still a fashion industry.
True.
You have to look at it in the big perspective as well. Nike reacts to what Adidas does. Louis Vuitton reacts to what Gucci does. And if you look at the seasons, man, everything that drops there's a sense of similarity somewhere.
True.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you have to consider that as well. Like, it's not like, as much as fashion can be unique, but then there's seasons in which, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm sure you get what I mean.
I hear you.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Yeah, I understand that, and that to me is being inspired. Like, of course, other companies go on to sue. That's why you see, as much as they might move, let me give you another example in fashion industry. Dad shoes were basically, they've been there from sketches, from the old Nikes, from all that shit. But then Balenciaga made the Balenciaga Triple A's, which is, in my opinion, the most hyped up dad shoe. And then you saw like kind of like a trend from Dolce & Gabbana, etc. creating dad shoes. You feel me?
Yeah.
That's now moving, because, you know, we're moving towards a certain trend or a certain thing. But the moment if I take the same Balenciaga dad shoe, I replace it with my name, and then, you know, you don't even change it. You just take another product, you edit a product, and then you put it out.
That's fugazi. Yeah, that's fugazi.
Yeah, that's fugazi.
That's the same thing.
Because,
like when it comes to biting, just one point, when it comes to biting, like we're saying, copying someone else or mimicking someone else's style, it's just the same as those Chinese companies, bro. If it's Nokia, then they call it Okia, and everything is the same. That is not being inspired. That is being fugazi and being out of your mind, fam. You need to fix up. Fact.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think we should stop using those companies, because, you know, like we said, those guys react in with the aim of trying to capitalize and what's going to make profit at that time. Whereas for creatives, man, it's different. You're not trying to capitalize it. I think it goes back to why we're talking about this clout and being a creative.
Yeah.
If you're gonna copy that because it's getting a response and it's cool and whatnot, then that's clout.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna copy it in the sense that it also has your identity drilled into it. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say if I have some Dripset swag mixed with the way that I genuinely dress, then that's
True.
You know what I'm saying? So
it's the same.
I feel you. Like, I feel you, dog. And I think to summarize what you said, I'll just say this. I think I would say you basically create the cool. You don't join the cool. So, like, even if you create something and no one is really down with it, it's now up to you as a creative, you know, to stick to your art until it basically is recognized, and it's what everyone else, if it's on a commercial level, as a creative, you're the one who's creating the original concept, or not really original, or a different perspective of something that's inspired you, like you said, and what we usually discuss. I think you're basically just creating the cool in creative sense.
Yeah,
Because right now, as a creative, it's definitely not really for the money right now. It will reach for the money if it goes that way, but I don't know, dog. It's just
Yeah.
pure fate. I feel this shit just happens.
Yeah, like that's what I always say. For now, fam, we're doing this because we love this, not for the money. And we have other things that we're doing in our lives as well. We're just trying to figure ourselves out. So if it's not for the money, this is the best time to try and figure shit out. Like just try to figure out how everything goes as an individual before you try and monetize and actually get into it on a major level, like those companies of a bigger scale that we're giving examples of. So this is the best time to actually be a creative and create your own shit and not bite and not use clout and whatever, because you are still small and very few people are watching you, whatever you're doing, whether you're a makeup artist, you're a girl, you're starting a YouTube channel, you're a musician, whatever you're doing. If you're just starting something, do not think of what people are going to say to you. Do not compare yourselves with people that are way ahead of you or people that have been doing this for ages. It's just you and your mind frame, and when you made that decision that I'm going to do this, that, and the third, you are just going to do that from your own perspective and your own mindset. Then when you have to adjust now with time so that you fit into the trends and how corporate shit goes, then that when that time comes, then we can have that conversation. But for now, whatever we're doing, please let's just be original. This is another episode of the StayAwake Grinder. Thanks, my G's, for coming through. Out. Bang.